Happy Monday, you guys. Tell you what, I was supposed to do this last night. I was all excited. We are here in Osage Beach, Missouri, Lake of the Ozarks, one of our favorite places to go every year as a family. Now that my husband, if any of you were around when when our family went on our very first family vacation in 2018, I think, I was pregnant with Violet. No, 2017, I was pregnant with Violet, the spider trailer of doom. Gotta say, we have no disrespect to Maine. We love Maine. We cannot wait to go back to Maine, but we like the Ozarks a whole lot, and we were having a fabulous time being here. But the reason why I couldn't do this last night the way that I normally would was not actually because we were on vacation, but more because we had two children lose teeth, and there was a great consternation as to whether or not the tooth fairy could find us on vacation. And we said to one of the children, put the tooth someplace safe where you can't possibly lose it. Okay. This is a story, by the way, that I'm telling right now, is what happened to my husband's iPhone. Because what could go wrong with a phone on the beach, on a lake? Yeah, not that. That's not what happened. What happened to his phone was children had lost a tooth, said put it in the safest place possible. And my husband's iPhone hole doesn't, the charging hole doesn't have a cover on it like mine does. And Shiloh's tooth fit right in there. It's one of her little side teeth. So she stuck it in there. And later, we couldn't find the tooth. We were like, Shiloh, where'd you put your tooth? She's like, in a safe place. And that was about the moment when we realized my husband's phone wasn't working. And she pointed out where the tooth was. And I would love to say hilarity ensued, but let me tell you how much Mr. MK does not like anyone messing with his phone. So this is might be the best and most interesting story the people at the Apple store had ever heard. But there is an Apple store in Kansas City, which is not that far away. 1, 2, his phone is working now. And 3, yes, the tooth fairy did find us on vacation. That's really all you need to know about what happened last night. But it's worth sharing because it is so ridiculous, and only Shiloh, those of you who have been around to see the reign of Shiloh, the reign of terror over our lives, can appreciate this is yet another Shiloh story. Because who else would think to put a tooth in there? I know I didn't. Anyway, so did you see this morning's Monday Motivation? I sure hope you did. Coach Nakia reached out to me and said, do we have a Monday Motivation, by the way? And I'm like, no. I'm actually struggling for motivation myself because it is raining and it's humid. I forget what real humidity is every time I leave Denver. I'm like, oh, this is humidity. I forget. It's so hard to breathe. I weighed my clothes, just my clothes, when I came back from the run. They were so drenched. And I was like, God, is this people running this every day? How they do it? My clothes, not my shoes, my socks, my bra, my top, my bottom, they weighed 3 pounds, y'all. That is how much sweat. That's like almost a pound of sweat per garment that I was wearing. I don't know. My feet are blistered up to the heavens. I'm like, I've got blisters in places that I didn't think it was possible to get blisters. I'm in all kinds of, not pain, but just like, whoo, you got to work to have a jogging habit here. I tell you what, it is absolutely worth it. But if you are struggling, let me tell you, the struggle is real. And yeah, sometimes a day off can make a huge difference. And here's why. If you wake up on a Monday and you're like, I have no motivation, and you're like, I just don't want to do it, which is where I was when Nakia asked me if I'd made a Monday Motivation. I found myself agreeing with the video that she made. And the agreement that I was making, this before I knew how sweaty it was outside, how humid it was. And the agreement I made, I said to her, you know, there is real truth in that, because if you give yourself permission to not do something, then you'll start looking for the signs that you're ready for it again. For me, it starts in my thighs. I've written a blog post about it before. It starts in my thighs when I kind of want them to work, or I've got a little excess energy and I find myself twitching my foot. I'm like, I need to run. I want to run now. I want to run. Let's do it. And sometimes I might not feel that until I've given myself permission to not run, or had a day off that I didn't necessarily need. So after saying all that to Nakia, I was like, oh, found that in my foot. So I got up and I went for a run where I almost drowned in sweat, because humidity, Yay, Missouri. Anyway, you were not forgotten. I just trying to help Mr. MK deal with the frustration of the tooth in the iPhone hole, in iPhone charge hole. Took up most of my night, but he's only my husband. I don't have to do that very often, but I'm here for you right now and will be. July is almost ready to go. Big, huge thanks to the production team for making sure that that did not fall to the wayside. It's going to take more than a tooth to get this stopped now. So July should be up very, very soon. It's the 28th. Everything is done, dusted, and once it's Seaberg ready, I'll be rolling right out to you. So start with the weekly wins, other than me being on vacation. Rhiannon in Maine listened to her body and took an extra rest day. Well done. She used her extra day to take her son for a surprise lunch at a favorite restaurant. Go for it. I love that. I absolutely love it. That makes me happy. Katie Fry was cleared to run at the end of last week. Yay! She had 2 great runs early this week and is keeping up with sunburn strength. That is hard to do. I tell you what. Good job, Katie Fry. She's excited that she's running New York City in November. I'm excited for you. Oh my Lord. I evidently am still running Chicago and I need to go figure that out. I did not think Chicago would be happening this year. I still don't see how it's going to happen. But anyway, here we are. Kathleen Harden ran a 5K this week. Yay! She was 6 minutes faster than the one she ran last November. She said the best part was she wasn't last and her husband brought her flowers. Oh my gosh, listen to that, guys. Flowers for someone who ran a race is never a bad idea. There's never a time when it's wrong. Don't worry about like, is it really appropriate? Just be like, there's never inappropriate time for flowers. Well, okay, there are some inappropriate times for flowers. That is not one. Just cause, congratulations. Welcome to this thing. Flowers are awesome. That's amazing. Before I go over to the questions, I want to say I'm sorry I haven't seen these. And part of the agreement with my family on vacation was to take all of the messaging and social media apps off of my phone. So if you don't see me on Facebook, that does not mean, or I'm not interacting with you if I'm not in the groups. I'm not in there very often to begin with. I've been trying to cut back over the past year. But part of being on this vacation, my family has requested me to be more present. It's a good thing I was last night for the tooth incident. So I do not have the Facebook app on my phone. I am checking messages once a day. I'm checking my email twice a day. But for the most part, my phone is, it does nothing but hold The Stand by Stephen King, which I'm almost finished with, and then moving on to 1922, another Stephen King book as well, and a phone and a video taker, which is amazing. So I'll tell you that to tell you this. If you see less of me, that's why. I should be back to normal. Probably back to normal at the end of this vacation. I don't know what normal is anymore, but we got to return to something. And the baseline is a little bit more of me on social media than what's going to be happening for the rest of this week and next. So question in rebuild. If I'm prepping for a 5K and my goal is to improve my time, I mean, I can run 5K. I would just like my time to be faster. What is the best way to focus my runs for this goal? Honestly, it's going to come from strength. And I know that is an answer that nobody ever really likes to hear. But almost 100% of the time, unless you're elite, the biggest gains are not going to come from harder runs, because if you don't have the muscular strength to really support good form in those harder runs, you're going to do more harm than good. The thing I think of are hill repeats. Like, yes, hill repeats are a great way to build strength, running strength, very specific strength. But you know what? It's not going to help your leg turnover. And if you don't have good glute strength as you start to run up that hill, you're not going to come out of that run with great glute strength. You're going to come out having overused your knees, having overused your thighs, and just replicating a lot of the inefficiencies that you already had. So if I were going to beg you to do anything that would make a difference, reach out. And I'll give you some circuits that you can do. The best one ever is Bosu circuit number 1, Bosu booty number 1. You can find the video for it on the YouTube channel, on the Fitness Protection LLC YouTube channel. If you have access to a Bosu ball, that is one of the most potent things you can do. I would say do that circuit twice through with perfect form, as good form as you possibly can, and that will kick you in the face. And if that isn't enough, let's talk it out. Let's do a FaceTime or something where I can watch you doing these moves, because I can't get through an entire minute of wibble wobble without needing to stand up and shake my legs. and I'm not as strong as I used to be, but even when I was at my strongest, I still couldn't. So if you find that that those moves are too easy, you're probably you could probably use a little bit of a form improvement because they're super, super, super hard to do. So yeah, that's what, there's not like a special run that's going to make you faster. Strength comes from specific strength exercises, and I know it and I hate it too. I swear to you, I hate it just as much as you do. I hate it more than you do, which is why I need a whole team of people to make sure that the strength demonstrations happen every single day. But I tell you that to tell you this, for any distance, but especially a 5K, that's where the difference is going to come in. It's going to be focusing on strength. So the way I would do it is focusing on, I mean, if I was coaching you one-on-one, I would put you in a good 6 to 8 week period of straight up booty building. I've got a great series I have people doing right now called Unbreakable Booty and Sunburn. So I would put you in something like Bossy Booty number 1, followed by Bossy Booty number 2. Then we take a week off from strength, and then I would put you in some different types of run circuits while the strength that we just built through that sort of sunk into your body. So that's one way of doing it. And again, you can spend a whole lot of money. You can spend a whole lot of time in the gym. None of that's really going to be necessary. Honestly, just a good booty kicking, or a booty focused booty building is going to be one of the most powerful things you could possibly do, especially for the 5K distance, which is more power than, say, marathon distance. Yeah, but feel free to reach out to me directly, and I hope you put it together. No one's been signing up for office hours. When I come back, I'm going to be resending the link for office hours. This is the sort of thing you can sign up for office hours for, and I'll talk you through it, and we'll make the program together. And maintain. Sometimes it is more convenient to move the long run to Friday. And my question is then, what should I do on Saturday? I think you once said we should have a day of rest after the long run. Sunday is always church family rest day, which means I'd have 2 rest days if I took Saturday off also. As I write this out, it occurs to me that if I'm so busy I can't fit the long run in on Saturday, maybe 2 rest days isn't so bad. Maybe 2 rest days isn't so bad. Look, if you're training for an event, in the past, I've always said it's a long run sandwich, Friday, Saturday. Let's try to keep it together. If the long run's better on Friday, do it on Friday, and then do the Friday run on Saturday and take Sunday off. That is totally fine. That is legit. What we want to do is get used to running on tired legs. And an easy way to do that is to have that increasing Friday, Saturday long run sandwich as an integral part of our training program. But if you're not training for a specific event where you're really going to care about the time and be like, I didn't get my money's worth out of this program isn't working, then cool, you can take 2 rest days off. That's totally fine. It is totally fine. There are fewer rules when we're maintaining than there have to be when we are training. When we are training, there's the rules are kind of finite. Like, we have to get the long run done. It is a good idea as many times as we can to have the long run sandwich as part of the plan. We really need to have varying distances during the week. We need to make sure that we're on our feet 5 different days a week. That sort of thing. We need to take our rest days really seriously. So all these rules kind of creep out of nowhere and can feel really restrictive. This is one of the reasons why I say we can't be in a training plan year round, because that type of restriction required to truly train and see all the benefits, it just isn't fun. It doesn't, even if you're super fit, it isn't really fun. And I find that in runners all the time who can only, join whenever they go to a long run, to a group for a long run, everybody's training for something. So you feel like the kid on the outside if you're not. So I tell you all that to say this, we don't need to don't add complication, don't add rules if we don't have to. 2 days off in a row is totally fine if we ain't training for nothing. And if you're that busy, shoot. If you need time for yourself, go for a walk on Saturday. Make sure you get that time, but don't worry about taking days off, because if you're not training for a marathon, if you don't have like a big race on the calendar, none of this matters at all. I'm in sunburn and struggling with the ab exercises. Holla, they're hard. I can barely get through one set of A, much less move on to B. I get discouraged and end the workout. Any advice? Don't worry about it. If A is enough, stay at A. And I mean, I've said this a lot. I'm going to keep saying it. You're not less than for not wanting to go on to Series B. If Series A is enough to keep you on the struggle bus, you are right where you need to be. You are not behind at all if you skip out of B. I would much rather you go through Series A and be really proud of what you just did, or be able to look back and say, hey, actually that came more easily than it did last week or 3 days ago, because some of them rotate throughout the week. I would much rather you feel that than feel discouraged about not being able to do more. This is your program. We need to meet your body where it's at and give it what it needs. Just your body isn't ready for Series B. You ain't throwing money away. You aren't behind. You're listening to the body, to your body, which really is the most advanced thing you could do. And there's nothing to be discouraged about that. I'm proud of you, actually. Thank you for asking. Take a look at B, throw it away, and just go through Series A. And if you really want to overachieve, do a little more fancy feet, because you can't go wrong with fancy feet. I would like to test my fitness. I have not done the EAT since summer of 2019, and I would like to see where I am at. Is there a way to test the fitness other than the EAT? Oh my gosh, I thought like, oh, is she going to ask permission? No, she's saying, I don't want to do that. There are so many ways to test your fitness. You don't need to do an EAT ever. Another thing that people like, so we've got the Cooper test. That one takes 20 minutes. So if you don't want to do the EAT, then you definitely don't want to do the Cooper test. But there's a shorter one, and it's 6 minutes long. So you would start the same way you would if you were doing the EAT. Warm up for about 10 minutes. Now, don't go crazy. You can walk it. As long as you're moving and you're lubricating your joints and you've done some silly toes, you should be in a good position. I would say just go out and run as hard as you can for 6 minutes total. Then stop your watch and walk it out. And once you've done that, send the data to me. You can export the file from your Garmin and then send it to me. And then I will then schedule an office hours call, and I'll talk you through what we saw and what that number means. That's one option. If you're like, I really don't want to talk to you about it, I just want to do it. Great. You can run that 6 minute test and then feel really good about that. And then take a look in Training Peaks. And if you go into the analysis tab on Training Peaks, it'll have at the bottom, there should be something like peak heart rate or peak pace, and it makes predictions. 6 minutes in that workout, if you isolate it by itself, should be enough to be able to get peak paces over times predicted in Training Peaks. And then you could use that and be like, hey, it looks like my 5K time, according to Training Peaks. According to this chart, it says that I could run a 5K in 30 minutes. I wonder if I could. That might be the motivation required to sign up for a 5K and see if you could actually run a 30-minute 5K or something like that. So I'm kind of spitballing ideas, but that's one thing you could do, a really simple test of your fitness in the middle of the summer when it's hot, humid, and gross. If you're running anywhere like Missouri and it's hot, humid, and gross, oh my gosh, the less time we can spend working hard outside, the better, for sure. So think about that. Those are two options. Let me know if you want a third. But yeah, we can do a whole lot with 6 minutes. I'm totally happy to help talk you through it. That'd be fun. I just got a new Polar watch, the Vantage M2, with the H10 heart rate strap. Yes, I know you have a Polar. Do you have any tips or features that you love about your watch or love about the Polar Flow app? Honestly, the thing that I love the most, because I'm on a Peloton a whole lot now, and when it comes to Peloton, we don't have a great way yet to appreciate the power in Training Peaks, because Training Peaks was designed for triathletes. So there's a thing that's coming out on the market really soon. Doesn't really matter. It was cheap. I paid $100 for it through one of those Kickstarter type deals, but it will translate power over into Training Peaks in a way that it can read. So this is a lag in Training Peaks, but Polar already is able to close that loop. And it's called the cardio load. So if you go into an individual workout, let me see if I can pull it up here and show you. So like this shows you my super, super crazy humid, there it is, crazy humid run today. I go into, and then you see, or can you see? It's too bright. Is it too bright? Yes, it is. Okay. You see Training Load Pro, and it's a drop-down menu, and it says medium cardio load, which is your TREMP score. So TREMP is something I used to have to calculate by hand when I was training clients one-on-one, like lead athletes 5 years ago or so. It was really annoying. It was super annoying. TREMP is an estimate of your cardiovascular. So I've always said that you've got your cardiovascular fitness and then you've got your muscular fitness. And there are two different types of fitnesses, but it's only one body. So we tend to conflate the two when we talk about them. So one of the things that comes from the TREMP score is it gives you an idea of the overall cardiovascular strain across different workouts. Biking, especially if you're a competitive biker with all the uphills, arguably is much more straining on your muscular system than a run would be, because it's a whole lot more work to propel your body up the hill. It's just, don't worry too much about the why. It just is. Up until now, we haven't had a good way to normalize those scores, because how would you compare a run to a bike? Well, the amount of power required your body has to generate in order to do the thing. And you know what? It's just, biking in a lot of respects is harder and it is a greater strain. Indoor cycling, very different. You're not getting anywhere near the same amount of wear and tear on your muscles or the strain, but you are getting quite a bit. So the TREMP score in Training Peaks is simulated in cardio load in polar. So that is probably the most valuable aspect of your Vantage or your Vantage V or your Vantage M. I have the Vantage V Series 1. I've been thinking about upgrading to the 2, but this has got all, until this breaks, I don't really have an excuse to get a new watch. So I'm going to keep riding it till the wheels fall off. But that is probably the thing that excites me the most. And by the way, TREMP / your cardio load, it's not a prediction. It's not, the reason it's useful is it can kind of tell you that you're headed towards overtraining in a way that's really interesting, because right now nothing else, including Training Peaks, can do that very well. If you have had, let's say that on a day when I had a 3-mile run, nothing hard on the body. But then a friend met me in the park and we went for a 3.5-mile walk. And I looked at her at the end of this and said, I'm sorry, I know I only live about a quarter of a mile from here, but I can't walk home. Would you drive me? And I felt really silly until I went and looked at my TREMP score and I'm like, okay, I've been doing a lot this week. No wonder I didn't want to walk home. My TREMP score was all the way up there. And if I'd seen that, I would have cut the walk off early, but I also didn't feel bad about saying, will you drive me home now? So that the TREMP score, the cardio load, which you can see in an individual workout, that is probably the most interesting thing about Polar to me right now, because it says it'll have training load pro, medium cardio load, medium muscle load. So it'll divide it into the two instead of me having to break it out on a piece of paper or in an Excel spreadsheet and do math, which I don't mind doing, but would rather not have to do at this stage, right? It's one thing when you're an elite, when you're at Elite Fitness, when you're not, like, just give me a number, just give me a sign, and don't make me think about it too much, because why would I want to think about it too much? And now you don't have to think about it at all, because Polar does all the math and all of the breakouts there. And that is, pretty easy and pretty valuable. So that is the thing that I honestly like about it the most. And I know everybody's hooked on Garmin. I'm not saying your Garmin sucks. I'm not saying anything about your Garmin other than I don't know how to navigate a Garmin anymore, because I've had a Polar for so long that the few times I've tried a Garmin, I'm like, nah, because I'm so used to this, and maybe I'm just so spoiled. Leopard can't change his spots, and old dogs can't learn new tricks, but little babies are going to stick teeth anywhere they fit. And I'm shuddering to go back upstairs and see what we find, what's going to be waiting for me when I get up there. But I can't wait to go back to this place tomorrow. If you have more questions, don't hesitate to throw them in the chat. You are coached. You are loved. And if you are not in the middle of your vacation trying to find an Apple store because of what your children did, then I promise you are winning at life. See you tomorrow. Oh, if you're in Sunburn, I'll see you theoretically soon. That reminds me I need to reach out to Aaron. Either way, have a good one, y'all. Bye.